This week's Torah portion in the book of Numbers contains the most well-known blessing in the entire Bible. The priestly benediction we offered at dinner before services, as we do and is customary in every Shabbat evening. You've also heard it offered at every bar and bat mitzvah, at every wedding ceremony. I've probably offered it thousands of times as a rabbi, but it was only at this past Saturday night's wedding that I translated it differently at the wedding in Chicago of our new trustee, Mike Goldstein's son, and our pianist's first cousin tonight. You know the line after, "May the Lord bless you and keep you"? It's almost always translated as, "May the Lord be gracious to you," or "May the Lord deal graciously with you." But I noticed, however, studying again this week, that the prince of all Jewish commentators who lived in 11th century France, Rashi, he translates the Hebrew differently. The Hebrew suggests that there are two ways God can bless us with grace and kindness. Either by dealing graciously with us, which is the way you hear it translated, or the way I translated it on Saturday night, by endowing us with divine grace. So Rashi doesn't translate it, "May God be gracious to you," but "May God give you grace and kindness." In other words, it's not that God will be gracious toward you, but that God will endow you with the quality of kindness and grace, that you will be filled with grace, not that God will decide to be gracious to you. Tonight's Shabbat speaker, Ginny Goodwin, has been endowed with the grace and kindness and goodness of which I speak. And that kindness and graciousness is no accident if you know her and Melissa's mom, Linda Goodwin Parkinson, or if you know Ginny's entire family in the front 3 rows, for that matter. Now, I confess that I am a rabbinic nerd. My kids call me a loser for attending a religious service rather than flying to LA to play a role on a popular TV show I didn't know much about. I also didn't know as much as I should, and I don't know as much as I should, about Ginny and Josh's renowned series. But I do know Ginny Goodwin, and I've learned a great deal from our ongoing friendship since the early 90s. You see, 4 years before Ginny became a bat mitzvah on this very pulpit, 4 years before, I was a rabbinical student living in LA in a duplex on Orange Drive. 2 vivid memories came back to me this week from those years, which relate to Ginny. I never told her. One was with a psychiatrist. The other took place in a hospital. The psychiatrist met with my rabbinic class, those of us who are interested in congregations, particularly large congregations. And the psychiatrist said to us, "I have good news and bad news from my experience counseling rabbis who lead large congregations. Which do you want first?" The good news. Good news is that people will never hate you for who you are. Bad news, people will never love you for who you really are. But why, doctor? Because they'll need you to be their rabbi. Psychologically, you are their rabbi, so your role will always be operating in their mind. Therefore, this wise doctor said, and I remember what he said, "Stay close to family and true friends to ground you and anchor you." The psychiatrist was right. People see rabbis or actors for what their needs are. And that's not a problem if as a rabbi or actress, you love helping people, being present with people, and moving people as Ginny does so well in her profession. And the doctor was also right about family grounding you, which Ginny has. But that psychiatrist, who I've lost touch with, never knew this particular Southern congregation. As the only Reformed synagogue in the region of the Deep South, we are, by necessity and by design, a caring community of genuine, real people where everyone is loved, everyone is welcomed and embraced. We always strive, as I said, to do the most good for the most people, no matter who someone is, where they're from, or what they have. Like a good family, this synagogue grounds and anchors those who join it. And Ginny's got that. That's why she's the same girl. Second LA memory, last one, was from a course I took entitled "The Rabbi in the Hospital." A few times a week, over the course of a year, I would shadow the chief chaplain at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in LA. And among my many unforgettable memories from that experience was learning from rabbis who specialize in being with people when they are most vulnerable and alone. Outside one room, the rabbi whispered, "This guy has terminal cancer and is a famous actor." Entering the room, the man was the only one in the room except for 2 Oscar statues on the windowsill. Nobody else was there, no family, no friends. And the rabbi asked if it would be all right to offer a prayer. "Sure," the man said, "but first I have a question, Rabbi. What's the meaning of life?" And the rabbi replied without flinching, "To love and be loved." Fast forward to a few years ago when I snuck out of a rabbi's meeting in LA to meet you, Ginny. My most vivid recollection of that time together was entering your house and seeing the most beautiful black and white photographs on your wall. Photographs of the front row and Aunt Nan, your anchor of relatives across time and space. As this once upon a time young rabbi who has always believed in you and who knows you are loved by your family almost as much as you love them, you know how blessed you are. And like this week's Torah portion, you are filled with grace. So now it's my pleasure to welcome you home and call you forward to share your thoughts. Please come forward now on this historic night of coming home. I'm going to sit by your guy because he has a better seat than the rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom. A famous actor friend's Twitter profile reads, "I memorize other people's words and say them in funny ways or dramatical ways." I like his summation better than mine. I tend to explain it to people like this. Remember the make-believe game we all played in kindergarten called House? Well, I play house while reciting the words of others. That is what I do for a living. And the point is, upon having accepted the good rabbi's challenge to speak here tonight, I panic because I have nothing to say. I only know how to try to convince myself and then you of other people's thoughts. I have nothing to say, and I am not a good writer. So Rabbi suggests I speak about coming home to Memphis, to my family, to temple. I turn to friends, and one says, "Well, we Jews love questions, so just ask a lot of questions." Another friend pipes in, "Extrapolate upon the fact that we Jews are both all and one. We are a minyan, and we are also given this special direct line to God via the Shema, and Shmir is our code." I both have no idea what my friend means by any of this, and I am thoroughly impressed at the same time. I am not a good writer, and now I have not a good writer's block, so I researched the origins of the word Shmir, and extrapolating upon that term alone would take us more time than we have here tonight, proving it a worthy backup theme. And while I'm Googling Yiddish bagel toppings, I searched the definition of Rabbi's word home. This is what I find. Home. Number 1, a place where one lives or where one was born or has lived for a long period. 2, the physical structure within which one lives. 3, a dwelling place together with the family or social unit that occupies it. 4, an environment offering security and happiness or a valued place regarded as a refuge or place of origin. 5, the place where something is discovered, a source. Home is a place where one lives or where one was born or has lived for a long period. Well, that would be Memphis, where my mother, my grandparents, aunts, and uncles still live, where I attended school, where I became a bat mitzvah, and where I grew into a young adult. Home is the physical structure within which one lives. Well, my own physical structure is in another city from which I have worked for 10 years, where the creation of my own nuclear family will take place. Home is a dwelling place together with the family or social unit that occupies it. I do always say that home is wherever my romantic partner in crime may be. Home is an environment offering security and happiness, or a valued place regarded as a refuge or a place of origin. Well, isn't that convenient? I lost this, and I've been trying to find it again. I could extrapolate on an environment offering security and happiness, or a valued place regarded as a refuge or place of origin, if only I could figure out how to write myself there. Home is the place where something is discovered, a source. Whoa. I'm not good at writing, and I think about taking a creative writing class just so I can write this speech. But I like my friend's idea about just asking questions because it requires less effort than a creative writing class, and I can be really lazy. So just ask questions. Just ask a lot of questions. Questions. This reminds me of something. Once upon a time, in the aforementioned physical structure within which one lives, in my other city on the West Coast, I was listening to the soundtrack of Fiddler on the Roof, and I impulsively decided to throw a last-minute Hanukkah party. I hadn't ever thought about the fact that almost all of the friends I have made as an adult are Jewish, and I didn't realize this until I didn't have to explain dreidel to them. And upon my voicing this epiphany, someone posed a question. Now, this is a question that, when searched on Amazon.com, answers with 31,739 book titles. A guest eating my kind of bland latkes queried, "But what is a Jew?" So we went around the table and compared our Jewishness. One BFF's parents are Jewish. She does not believe in God, and she has never stepped foot in a synagogue. But she loves a good Seder and believes that all of her extra time should be spent doing good things for the less fortunate. Another BFF's parents are Jewish, and she lives by the spirituality and morality that she learned in the religious school of her youth. But she has no relationship with tradition or any Jewish community. This went on and on around the table until we got to me. I was super Jew. My mother is Jewish. We celebrated the holidays. I went to religious school. I was a bat mitzvah. I went to the Memphis JCC summer camp and Jacobs camp. I designed the Softy t-shirt in 1993. I loved me some community service. I was a Krieger junkie, BBYO secretary. I went to Temple Youth Group gatherings on Wednesday nights. I was confirmed, and what's more, it meant everything to me. It meant so much to me that I didn't want a bat mitzvah before I felt mature enough to be a good example of Jewish womanhood. The language of my values, goals, and actions were a Jewish language. The very way I loved was Jewish. Rituals and traditions connected me not just to my family, but a family of millions and millennia. I saw God. I saw God in the spark between people. As Martin Buber, the great Jewish philosopher, philosophized, when two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the electricity that surges between them. I saw God that way. Now, I said I was super Jew. And then I up and left Judaism for a very long time. And I mean it. I left. I'm going to leave the whys of my departure in that quicksand swamp called Why Do We Do Anything? Suffice it to say that my late teen years were a morass, and instead of seeking solid ground, instead of running to any definition of home, I took to the air. I flew from Memphis, that place where one lives or where one was born or has lived for a long period. And I flew from Temple, Israel. I wrote myself here, an environment offering security and happiness, or a valued place regarded as a refuge or place of origin, and I flew from my faith. I walked out of Judaism, I walked out on Judaism just as consciously as I bought a plane ticket out of Memphis, and my flight took me very far away. Then I was this new, alone thing, a nomad in the world. I was homeless. I could define homelessness all by myself without the internet, and I was homeless. We Jews love questions. Well, I needed answers. I was homeless, and I didn't like being homeless, so I went home shopping. I learned everything about everything. I was 100% sure that my feelings of homelessness would be assuaged by a faith of answers, promises, and perhaps a little less responsibility. I was 100% sure that, yes, I was supposed to be of some other faith. In the South Park version of my abandonment, I had divorced Judaism and was seen with something much younger in an embarrassing red sports car. But alas, no. Then there was nothing. For 10 years, there was nothing. Now, nothingness is defined as the absence of existence. My favorite philosopher, the father of modern philosophy, René Descartes, said, "I think, therefore I am." Well, when you are nothing, you do not think. When there is no ritual, tradition, or community to remind you to think, there is an absence of faith. And where there's an absence of faith, a nothingness of faith, a black hole of faith, you don't miss faith because you don't even remember there was something called a spark. It had been really a very long time. Once upon a time, in the aforementioned physical structure within which one lives, in my other city on the West Coast, the subject of a mezuzah arose. It had come with the house, and I wanted it to stay. It reminded me of something. And my boyfriend at the time didn't see the point. He said of himself, "I am not Jewish." I said, "I think you would still love all that it stands for, and it's already here." He said, "But this is not a Jewish house." It had been really a very long time. And then there was this question of my now seemingly ironic Hanukkah brisket, and the brisket was killer, by the way. But what is a Jew? I was a Jew, but I am not now a Jew. I said, "Not really. I had done everything you aren't supposed to do in Judaism. I ceased doing any of the things you are supposed to do, and doing in Judaism is everything. I had broken my covenant. The only thing Jewish about me was that I felt guilty." I knew I must have lost the privilege of being Jewish, just as someone who neglects her spouse and drives off in an embarrassing red sports car probably loses her spouse. Someone at the dinner party posed. And so this nuclear family that you will create, your future completely hypothetical children, will your children be nothing? Of course my children will not be nothing. They will be Jewish. Of course. She asked, "Judaism being matrilineal, they will be of the Jewish race, you mean?" "No," I answered. "I mean, yes, but no. I mean, I would choose it for them. They will be Jewish because, well, this isn't a Jewish house," he had said. I know. What I knew was that there was this unnamed feeling. It reminded me of something. It wasn't homelessness. I knew it wasn't nothingness because it was something. It was the lack or loss of something. So what was this feeling? I knew at once that it wasn't geographical, and yet it might as well have been because it was as tangible as soil. I felt homesick. They will be Jewish because. And there it was. A pilot light, not quite a spark between people, but that click of the stove just before the flame catches under the pot of Grandma's matzo ball soup. But fire cannot burn in a vacuum. Fire cannot ignite if there is no space. So space started expanding, and suddenly the idea of home started to move in different directions all at once, like lots of definitions for the same word. I would choose it for my completely hypothetical future children. The British journalist William Norman Ewer penned, "How odd of God to choose the Jews," to which someone famously replied, "Not so odd, the Jews chose God." Back at the Hanukkah party of all Hanukkah parties, my BFF, who doesn't believe in God and was hung up on her godlessness, rather conveniently asked, "Does anyone know a rabbi who can tell me if I'm really Jewish?" I said, "I know a rabbi." I wrote Rabbi Micah Greenstein a letter. I asked about my girlfriend's membership status in the tribe. I asked, and me, do I still get to be Jewish? Rabbi answered. And within his answer was something akin to a saying of my mother's. It takes a lot of patches to make a patchwork quilt. I am a Jew. It took me 10 years to come back around to that self-definition. I was a Jew by birth, and now I'm a Jew by choice. Now, has anyone in the past 10 minutes contemplated the word home in verb form? An animal homes. It means that an animal, quote, returns by instinct to its territory after leaving it. I am a Jew, and no one, not even I, can take that away from me. Just talk about home, Rabbi says. Well, yes, Memphis is home, and Temple Israel is home. And when I come home to this place where these people are here with me, things are easy, things are defined. And yet, my life is not in Memphis. And I cannot spend my Shabbatot at Temple Israel. And so this writing exercise is about to become very selfish, for it is about to become very much about this question. How on earth am I supposed to conjure these feelings of an environment offering security and happiness, or a valued place regarded as a refuge or place of origin, somewhere else? There are these completely hypothetical future children who will need a home, and I need to know what that home is before they arrive. Just ask a lot of questions? Okay. How will I create the security blanket with which to wrap up my own little humans before those blankets become the patchwork quilts of their lives? How do I do it by myself without my Memphis family? Isn't the very idea of home crowded with familiar faces? I call my mother. I have no idea how to be Jewish alone. Well, maybe my friend who drops in my lap, extrapolating direct lines to God, the Shimon cream cheese, is onto something. It takes a minion. It takes a village. Maybe I'm not supposed to be able to do this by myself. Maybe I don't have to. Because what about all these party guest friends of mine? Who knew there were so many Jews? Is it that we navigate the world in the same way, in a Jewish way, speaking that good old Jewish language so we're magnetically drawn to one another? Can we beget the Jewish community my friends only think they eschew? Could we be at least a version of a congregation? Is maybe everyone searching for home? Has it been this way for all Jews ever since the temple was destroyed? Are these feelings of home what all Jews are hoping to have found by next year in Jerusalem? Jews do love questions. Maybe I should just ask some. So I ask my friends, the who knew they were Jewish friends, these questions. And now, alas, yes, we are a small but promising group of us shoal shopping in Los Angeles. For now, we are searching for the physical manifestation of our spiritual home, that environment offering security and happiness, or a valued place regarded as a refuge or a place of origin. And we try to not recreate, but create the rituals and traditions of our youths in order to build the feeling of home. Because home is a geography, and it's not geography. Home is a skyline with a pyramid, and a skyline obscured by smog. It is the lighting of Shabbos candles on Grandma and Boom's dining room table. It is my partner in crime. It is a bright, orangey red synagogue. It is the smell of barbecue, the sound of my granny humming, my mother's hug in the hug of humid heat. It is a place or state of being where I am empowered to ask question after question after question, including, am I a Jew? Is schmear butter or cream cheese or blueberry spread or all of it? And how do I create this home of which dictionary.com speaks for my future completely hypothetical children? This may not be a faith of answers, but it seems to me that the faith itself is the answer. Home is Judaism itself. Home is Judaism, and Judaism is the place where something is discovered, a source. Home is where the heart is. One night in recent history, on a chillier West Coast evening, while wrapped in an intricately constructed patchwork quilt, the question of a mezuzah arose. And to my partner in crime, I said, "I know you are not Jewish," I began. But my partner in crime interrupted. "We should get a mezuzah for every room because this is a Jewish home." And you know what I call that? A spark. Shabbat shalom.